Should do a Hannah Andrews and just
Live now.
live now.
There you go.
All right. I know it takes a few minutes to warm up. I'll just get this so you can see me here. There we go, better.
It should be better.
Yeah. Do you want to put your headphones on, Claire? Put the, otherwise we'll get feedback. So we've got two people. I'll just turn this off. Put on a mask to give yourself a fun look. Tap the magic wand to try one. So we're just waiting for, there we go, 4 people have come on board. So do give us a thumbs up so we can see who you are. Claire's actually sort of moderating any questions that you might have. This is the first one that I've done actually on Facebook. Interestingly enough, I was just saying to Claire that I started streaming video back in 1996 when the only servers they had at the time were things you had to pay $10,000 to get, which is absolutely ridiculous. Someone who's been around this thing for a while might remember real video, which is crazy. But anyway, so tonight I wanted to just take some questions from you guys about any aspect of gut health. With the closure of the shop a couple of weeks ago, our immediate day-to-day accessibility is diminished, but we're just replacing it now with the live videos here on Facebook. So if you've got any questions or queries about anything that you might be experiencing, any issues that you might be, is that Angie May? Welcome in. Thank you. So do press the like button just to let us know who's what, and I think there's a bit of a delay on who's turning up as well. I should say straight off that we'll have a coupon to offer at the end of this little discourse, which if Facebook doesn't cut us off, could run for anything from sort of 30 minutes to 1 hour to 1.5 hours. Let me just recap what's just happened in the last few weeks in terms of knowledge and information around the gut and gut health, and it's really, really accelerating. For those of you who know me and who have my book, Understanding the Divine Gut, which I actually wrote in 2012, fundamentals of that book still exist today in terms of the need to take personal responsibility for your own health by making appropriate food choices. For those of you who I don't recognize at this particular point, I actually self-healed after 45 years of chronic digestive issues. And the body, I have found out subsequently to that experience, has a program in it that prevails to the point where if you do the right things and you actually get with the program, the body will heal. I have no doubt about that at all. I mean, I wouldn't be here today, 25 kilos less, with a plethora of issues which I self-healed, all gone. Everything from chronic depression to thyroid to bloating to reflux to heartburn to high blood pressure, arrhythmia, erratic heartbeat. I mentioned the weight thing, skin issues, psoriasis through the tops of my hands, and that was on the interior. On the exterior, there's also, I believe, a very strong correlation between what's happening inside your gut and what's happening in your so-called real-world life. Relationships went to crash hot, and a whole range of things just didn't work. But I can assure you, the moment that I actually began to connect with my personal health, everything around me began to change. what was Tracy Keller, Claire, hi Bradley. Lovely to see you in tonight, my mates. Hi Trace. Don't forget questions, and we'll have a coupon code which I'll share with you shortly that'll give you 10% off any of the green papaya powder that I want to allude to. But this is not a sell. I want to give you information, okay, but I have to say that there was a catalyst in my own healing, and I'll get to that in a second. Sue Davis from Vietnam. Hi Sue. This is so cool. Claire's cracking up on the couch. How are you going? That's really cool.
I can't see you.
Yeah, just write something. Yeah. Question. Reflux. Reflux was my near killer. I mean, I had a near-death experience with reflux about 10 years ago this year. And it was here in Noosa. Years and years of chronic reflux. I remember as a child, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, being on the back steps of my house where I grew up in New Zealand and just having a spontaneous regurgitation when my mother had no idea what the hell it was. And those days, there was only 2 states of health to be in, you know, and you can guess which they were. Pretty damn obvious. One's dead and one's alive. So the consequence was that, you know, I spent much of my life actually in and out of a range of disorders which played havoc with my brain. Depression was the other thing too I experienced, which I totally healed. I was just writing to somebody, Marie Claire from Belgium. Hello, how are you going? Thank you for your love and support. That's really appreciated.
Sherry's on from New Zealand.
Sorry?
Sherry from New Zealand.
Sherry? Yeah, cool. I can't see this, but this is really cool. So the idea is that if you work with the body's program through a combination of use of functional foods and then appropriate eating thereafter, essentially everything you put into your body will either cause you to have a very strong, healthy, happy, pain-free and productive long life, or you'll die real quickly. And we see, without doubt, numerous instances daily. I mean, I looked at Facebook this afternoon and Jesus, it's scaring the hell out of me because there's so many people describing that they have a loved one who is being diagnosed with this, that, or the other cancer or something else like that. Well, we've got to put a stop to that. You know, it's just crazy. We have to put a stop to this. And the only way we can do that is actually by taking personal responsibility. I went on after this reflux attack that nearly killed me 10 years ago, and I was in the middle of the night, and I literally was drowning in my sleep. I was having a dream someone was choking me to death. I woke, and because of the fear associated with dying, I mean, that's what it felt like, with no air in my body, and I had to think real quickly. Suffice to say, I did survive, and nearer the God 'twas I at that particular time, because I said, listen, what do I do here? And I don't know how many people have noticed in recent days that someone was describing, actually, and it's been floating around the internet, if you actually come across anybody who's having a heart attack or cardiac arrest, get them to cough violently, generate a cough, bring that cough up. And I said in that instant, what do I do? What do I do here? And the word cough came in. Now, I'm like this. There's no air in my body. My lungs are full of water. They were full of the contents of my stomach. No time to yell out, no time to call anything. The upshot of it was I coughed. I managed to gather what little breath I might have had left. And I remember bending down and coming up, and then all the stuff came out. And the next morning I Googled something and I was led to the green papaya powder, which is a functional proteolytic enzyme. My answers came 45 years. I wasn't able to break down protein. I was suffering from a thing called paralysis of the gut muscle. And I don't want to get too medical here, by the way, because I'm merely just telling my story to you. And I think anything that I do share with you, you have to work it out in your own context of personal health. I'm happy to take questions, as I said before, so please feel free to ask anything. Symptoms, or should I say issues associated with the body, which the medical fraternity actually calls symptoms, they will indicate that Something is not working basically in your body, and generally it is your gut. It is not breaking down food, and you have you're experiencing a retention of unprocessed proteins, which basically cause massive inflammation. The body also has a predisposition to create what I call, well, the body goes through a sweetness threshold, especially when flight or fight comes in, and a lot of people are living in that situation now. And the byproduct of adrenaline is in fact glucose, which is pure sugar. So the consequence is the body gets a lot sweeter and creates this inflammation. So just coming back to my story, I just moved very quickly from that realization. I was a journalist for many years, so I know what truth looks like and feels like, and it's very much an internal thing for me. It's not an external thing. The consequence was I got some of this green papaya powder. I began to use it. My gut began to work, and within 12 to 18 months, all the symptoms that I spoke of before, the depression, thyroid, bloating, reflux, heartburn, the psoriasis and skin issues, the 25 kilos of weight, the heart issues, high blood pressure as well. I can't remember what it was, but it was extraordinarily high. That completely disappeared. I remember at about month 8 getting out of bed one morning, I had no pain in my body. And I actually had to balance, jump on one foot and jump on the other and say, oh my God, I actually don't have any pain in my body. And I'd never felt that feeling before. And a lot of people on this planet don't know what that feeling feels like. They don't know what feeling good feels like. They don't know what living in a body that has no pain in it actually feels like. And I can tell you, it's pretty amazing. And I still, to this day, have no aches or pains in my body. None whatsoever. I really don't have any breakdown, apart from missing the bottom step at the back of the unit a couple of weeks ago and crashing down on my kneecap, which is a major message from the universe. I don't have any pain in my body. So is there anybody basically that wishes to ask a question about anything that you're experiencing?
Yeah, Tracy's asking, can you please tell him more about the tongue and why you check out tongues to determine gut health?
Tracy, yeah. Why aren't I getting these questions up here?
Maybe you haven't got it switched
I
on.
don't know, but anyway, I'll just defer to you for a second, Claire. That's okay. The tongue actually is a dead giveaway in terms of what is going on in the body. Can I just preface things for a second, Trace, because after all this began to heal itself and what have you, I went on in 2011 and studied integrative nutrition through IAN out in New York. And one of the best and most amazing things that I've ever done, because it brought a whole lot of things together from a functional perspective, i.e. what's the cause as opposed let's treat the issue, or in medical terms, let's treat the symptom. And I've just continued to focus on that because that's a question I ask. What was causing this issue? And the medical people would say, we don't know. There's some really good research being done on it. Here, have Nexium. And I said, whoa, that's not what I'm into. And I didn't do that. And I nearly paid the price for it. But here I'm here to tell the story. So what happens is that the body will send off signals. And the tongue basically, if you can take the throat here as the top of the tongue, will go down all the way down to your genitals, literally. And the tongue basically will, various parts of the tongue will tell you what's happening in various parts of the body. I don't know how many of you can remember when you went to the doctor as a child, the first thing he would do is ask you to poke your tongue out, and he'd put a bit of flat wood or something on it, and you go, ah, and he'd look at the tongue. And that's what they did in the old days. Then, of course, they didn't have the vast amount of pharmaceuticals that they prescribe these days, and they also had more time to actually talk with you, which was really fab. But the tongue will describe essentially what is going on inside the entire body. Everything from chronic acidosis, acidity, which is denoted by a creaminess, a yellow creaminess on the tongue, And we get a lot of that, a lot of that. I mean, that's basically the number one signal. And you just see the whole tongue right from the throat area, which is the top of the tongue here, at the back of the tongue, and forward is your genitals. That's rife at the moment. The other thing we've got a lot of are parasites, and parasites can be fixed so easily. In Australia, we have a lot of people who live in the bush, and they are on tank water or something like that. And if it's a particularly dry summer, towards the end of the summer, the bottom of the tank starts to bubble away and ferment, and all sorts of things happen. And parasites, which are present in the base of the tank, they will enter the body one way or another, and the consequence is the body just fills up with parasites. Now, if the body's acidic because the gut isn't working properly, then what happens is the parasites just proliferate. The eggs sometimes they reside in your lower intestinal tract for a lifetime, and the consequence is when you come under stress, they just explode and the whole body just takes off. Things like Candida, those yeast infections, again, they can be fixed very, very quickly. And they're fixed because we change the environment inside the body. We don't necessarily specifically go after the Candida or go after the parasite itself, but we'll do things basically inside the body which changes the environment so that these things cannot exist. I'm also of the opinion here that things like cancer as a fungus exists in the body. And again, coming back to that sweetness that I spoke about before, when the body goes through that sweet threshold, these things switch on. And I believe we all have a predisposition to getting cancer. The consequence is, which is another story, and you've got to read my Understanding the Divine Gut book to just know where I come from. You get into the system and it's diabolical. And the idea is not to get into the system, is actually to work with a self-healing matrix that actually part of the reprogramming through your response, through your choices, begins to make a major difference to your self-healing process. When I say to people I self-healed without any medical interference, most of them don't believe it, but it's a fact. And I'm here to tell the story. So coming back to the tongue is a very, very vital part of your own self-healing. You can get up in the morning, and most people in the morning will have a creamy tongue because you've got a build-up of acidity, mainly uric acid in the body, because you're fasted overnight for 8 hours. And the consequence is you then have to start the elimination process. That's why I take fruit in the morning. Jessica Lee, hi, how are you? Good to have you aboard. Don't forget to ask any questions. Claire's reclining on the couch over there, and she's telling me what they are, which is cool. Fruit in the morning, basically, Barbara, pleased to meet you. It does two things. One, it instantly alkalizes the body, and two, it actually the enzymes in the fruit actually activate the colon, so you can get into that elimination process very, very quickly. The elimination from 4 a.m. to midday, that's the body, that's sort of the rhythm that we're in. And then midday to 8 p.m. is when you're taking whole food into your body. And then from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. is your fasting time. Look, I've got some views about fasts. I've got some views about detoxes and things like that. But the most important thing I've learned at this ripe old age of 64 this year is that I feel like I'm 44. I would say 34, but I'll say 44. Is that I know what works for me, and it's fundamentally common sense. Meat, wheat, dairy, processed foods, grains, white sugar, egg products, white rice products don't work for me. They basically cause major trauma inside my body. Now remember, my issue started at the age of 8 in New Zealand after I had my tonsils and adenoids removed, and I think there was a polio vaccination at the time. And my gut biome was destroyed. Everything was thrown out of whack. So I'm not sure Tracy, if that answers your questions, but the tongue is really, really important. Look at it in the morning, check it out, and mainly around between 9 and 10, after the body started to function again, you'll see some changes occur on the tongue. Get some water into your system first thing, and get that fruit into your system first thing in the morning. And I noticed that basically if you take protein, including pea-based protein or plant-based protein, definitely not animal protein, if you take that into your body first thing in the morning, your body stops eliminating and tries to digest. So what is really important is that you want to get into that phase, that momentum, that rhythm where it's elimination, and then you're ingesting and digesting and then absorbing, and then you're fasting. And that fasting period for 8 hours is when all the nutrients are farmed out through your body. Now, I just should mention here that I'm going to release a coupon code shortly for 10% off the green papaya. I don't want this to be a big sell. What I want to do is actually just to share with you my story, but tell you, really I've got to, that the green papaya powder is a proteolytic enzyme that I use, and that's what it is. I took a flat teaspoon a day after my main meal and listened to my body, and within those 12 to 18 months, all those symptoms that I spoke about before completely disappeared. How about stinky sweat? Does it relate to gut problems? Is that Amy Jean? Yeah. Yes, it does. Stinky sweat basically is your lymphatics overburdened by uric acid, largely. It comes as a result of basically proteins not being able to be broken down successfully by the gut. Now remember, my gut muscle had virtually stopped. And I want to talk about gut biota, gut biome in a second, but my gut muscle had virtually stopped. And the consequence was some days I'd pong. Now, I wasn't eating a lot of meat because it didn't agree with me even when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I grew up in New Zealand where it was a staple diet. It was mince on toast for breakfast, corn silverside smothered in piccalilli between 2 pieces of white bread for lunch, and then chops, stew, mushy vegetables and steamed pudding. Yvonne Halling, hello sweetheart, how are you? We've got them all here tonight. From France. Yeah, awesome. So the consequence is the body becomes quite overburdened. And the lymphatics, especially in the top area, the thoracic area of the body, are under a tremendous amount of pressure. And the consequence is that your body odor begins to actually really rank up. Now, all you've got to do is just remove meat and dairy and even gluten at the moment. Someone might mention, well, you know, what is it about gluten and the wheat? Is it the hybridization of the wheat? Or is it the glyphosate? Is it the Monsanto Roundup that they actually spray onto the wheat crops 3 weeks before their harvest, that actually it's residual contamination that's causing problems for the body? The best thing is just get off it altogether if it's causing issues. And don't be afraid. You won't perish. How many of you seen What the Health? I see we've got a great number at the moment, which is really, really cool. Okay, now Russell Williams says that he believes there's a vital neurological connection between the gut and the brain, not commonly known to general public. Well, absolutely correct, Russell. Absolutely correct. Is this correct from your area of expertise? If so, what's the fix? The fix is there's two things happen in the gut. One is, first of all, you've got this maceration process by a series of very small horizontal muscles inside your gut. I'll just stand up for a second. You can still hear me. So the gut resides under here, and there's your small intestine here. And in this particular area, there's your esophageal tract into your gut. So this area here, basically all it does, it's just a machine. It's like a mining machine, and it macerates the food backwards and forwards. And the consequence is that it creates a thing called chyme, which is the liquid food. And when those gut muscles aren't working properly, you're not going to create the liquid food. You're not going to create the chyme. Now, the The interesting thing is when I use the green papaya powder, it supports the breakdown process. So there's the gut muscle which isn't working, there's the food, there's that enzyme, the proteolytic enzyme, it breaks down the food and it takes over the breakdown process of the food in the gut. And all of a sudden the gut says, that didn't feel so bad, that's pretty cool, I'll start to work again. Now remember, the gut is not dead, it's just stalled. So it can be restarted again with a little bit of help. So it begins to start again. This chyme, this liquid food, begins to emerge right throughout the gut. And inside all of that, of course, is all the bacteria. Now, I have to say, on the surface of all green food, and green food, by the way, is the origin of all the protein for the animals. The animals don't create protein. They eat the green food. Okay? So this is a little clip that's going around at the moment on YouTube and on Facebook from the guy from What the Health saying, listen, you don't understand. Animals don't actually provide the protein. They don't create the protein. They ingest the protein, and then we eat the animals. So if you just remove the animal quotient and go back to the plants, you're actually going to take off the surface of all those plants billions of good bacteria. Now, those bacteria are actually ingested into the gut. And Russell, this is still a continuation of your question. And that gut cavity begins to repopulate the gut biota, the gut bacteria as well, because it's working. Now, I, through my own studies and through my own research, have ascertained that the presence of that gut biota, actually, they release an electrical charge which supports the startup motion of the actual gut muscle. So whenever there's a movement inside the body, including moving my lips or moving my fingers, you need an energetic enzyme. You need electrical charge, basically, to enable this to happen. Now, the consequence in the gut is that you got your gut working again. You're starting to repopulate your gut bacteria. You're actually being mindful and aware of the food that you're actually eating. And what happens is that this thing starts to work. Sue Adcock, hi sweetheart, long time, yeah. The gut begins to work. Now, as I mentioned, there's the gut cavity, and under here you've got the small intestine. And this liquid chyme runs into the small intestine where the actual absorption takes place. Nothing absorbed is absorbed into the bloodstream through the gut except water and alcohol. And see, a lot of people have no idea basically how this works. So this is purely a machinery function. And if this machinery isn't functioning properly, then everything downstream is affected. The consequence is you're going to get lumpy protein going into the small intestine. And what happens, of course, is that literally the small intestine is sucking on air. So therefore it is unable to distribute any nutrients into the cerebral fluid. And I have an opinion about gut function. Autism, ADHD, dementia, Alzheimer's. When the gut is not functioning properly and there's no life force in the food that you're eating, then the small intestine has got nothing to distribute around the body. And all sorts of things happen. Now, as I said, a few months into my own healing experience, and I did have the jump start with the green papaya, but I really just got it. When the nutrients began to flow into my brain, I became so inspirational. I've written 3 books now, and there's a 4th one coming out at the end of this year, which is an absolute doozy, and I have a funny feeling it'll be a good seller, if not a bestseller. But it's a really interesting book based around following a plant-based lifestyle and recipes, because that's the other thing too. People, what do I eat? Well, at the moment, just keep it simple. Fruit and greens, and create flavors. And both my recipe books, is all about creating flavors. So the neurological connection, just finishing Russell's question here, is vital, because the moment that my gut began to work and I began to repopulate the gut biome, my depression disappeared. My depression totally disappeared. The inflammation in my body reduced. There would be times when essentially I'd be suffering from an inflamed brain. And when your brain is in a nutritionally dehydrated state, what happens, the mind starts to play really wicked tricks on you. And it's the response to the thoughts that cause the issue. I mean, on several occasions I wanted to top myself That's how bad it was. So I'm very, very familiar with the impact of a gut that's not working and a dysfunctional brain, which leads you to actually do really weird stuff. So there is a vital connection between the two of them, without doubt. All right. Russell, if you want to talk to me offline, just send me an FB message or something like that, and I'm more than happy to expand on that. Fixes: 1 flat teaspoon of green papaya on a daily basis after your main meal. Remove meat, wheat and dairy, processed foods, grains, white sugar and all that sort of stuff. And just focus on getting your proteins across the board from a range of green foods. They're all there. They range from 1.2% potatoes up to 30, 40 or 50% in hemp. And of course the hemp thing's really starting to look attractive because, you know, the Australian and New Zealand governments, for a start, of enacting legislation to remove it as a dangerous food, which is one of the most illogical and dumb things I've ever come across. But we all know that's a protectionist thing. All right. Now another question. There's a lot of research and info out there that that deal with leaky gut and other health issues like IBS, autoimmune, and that are being, that people are suggesting you actually heal with bone broth. I'd love to hear whether you know of any food supplement that actually heals the gut. Marina. The gut will heal itself. Bone broth, by the way, is a separated protein and causes more damage to your gut than it does good. It's a fad, and it's a dangerous fad. It is pure collagen. And when you have a separated protein, it becomes an alien protein to the gut. The gut can't recognize it. So you're pouring all this stuff into your body, and it's alien. It's not natural. Okay? It's like boiling up bones. Why would you want to do that? Why not just eat green food? Lighten up. And again, bring in a catalyst like the green papaya to support the breakdown process, to support the protein breakdown. And I'm talking breaking down all green proteins. Let's just think, when you hear proteins from this point on, just think plant proteins. Don't think animal proteins. They're old world. That's the old matrix. Not to mention that meat products and even the bone broth is full of cortisol, which is the fear drug that the animal experienced moments before it's killed, which you are taking into your body if you're eating meat products, okay? Now, the funny thing is that, you know, my family background is actually the meat business in New Zealand, and I'm sure my brother or my nephew, if they're watching, and they will understand. It's just, we're over it. So, definitely, leaky gut is a bit of a misnomer. It's really just an inflamed gut cavity. So the walls are basically inflamed because there's no biota in there, the muscle's not working, and you just keep pouring bone broth or keep pouring animal protein into this gut that's not working, and you're going to have problems. You're going to have major problems. So you have to just clear the decks, ease and grace, keep it really simple. Fruit in the morning, lovely greens with flavoursome, lovely flavour experiences at lunchtime. And, you know, even the green papaya, I don't take it every night. It's something you don't need to take forever. This is the most beautiful thing. Your body will heal if it is programmed correctly. Now, look, I'll give you the coupon code for the scottmathiasraw.com website. If you want to go in and use FB1 for 10% off, okay, tonight. FB1 is the coupon code, and I know we had a call from a gentleman today who basically has some issues at the moment, and there's 10% off for you, because I tell you what, I would give it away if I was able to afford to, because that's how amazing it is. Yeah, it's $10 off, shall I say, $10 off. So it's $10 off a jar of green papaya. Use FB1, $10 off. All right. Yvonne, vegetable broth is great. The problem is that when you leave a bucket of soup sitting on the auger, I don't know what you cook your food on, but it tends to boil away a lot of the nutrients, and you really want to hold on to a lot of the nutrients. I have to say, and I don't know how many guys know this, but when something is cooked and you get the fragrance of the food in your nostrils, that's actually the flavonoids coming out of the food and sticking to the ceiling. Okay, and what happens is that in the flavonoids are all the nutrients. All right, John, hi mate, and Jenny, thank you for sharing that, and really appreciate that share. Jeannie Musgrave, good on you. So when you cook food and you get that fragrance, that actually is all the nutrients that you can smell, and they just literally meander to the surface. Valerie, hi, meander to the surface of the kitchen, stick to the kitchen ceiling. You're better off licking the kitchen ceiling because that'll give you more nutrients. So vegetable broth is good, but what I would suggest is that, you know, just try hot water and steeping fresh green vegetables into that hot water, and maybe adding a flavour to it. And it could be a gluten-free tamari or something like that, could be some curry powder. And the consequence is that you're going to get more nutritional value from a whole vegetable than you are from an aggressively cooked vegetable. We had a housekeeper many years ago when I was growing up, and her name was Mrs. Gomez. My family would remember this, and she would come in from time to time. She wasn't a regular one, and she used to cook everything in the one pot. Dig that. She used to cook everything into the one pot. And the consequence was you'd have this mushy food, and it was pretty hectic. Now, Cheryl McMahon, you get awful reflux. I had awful reflux, chronically, okay? You take Nexium tablets. I've tried to stop these, but with no success. Will your product help me? I can recommend my product highly. I'm very mindful of the fact that if I tell you to stop doing something from a pharmaceutical point of view, someone's going to get their nose out of joint. I can recommend only... okay, sorry, my phone just interrupted things. I can recommend the green papaya without hesitation. The impact on me was almost instant. I remember when I first got some from India and I started taking it, thanks Bradley for sharing that I experienced so much relief, and I had to sleep with my propped up in the bed. Otherwise, all the juices would flow back into my lungs again, and I'd have a similar experience that nearly caused my death. But I began to get stronger as the green papaya basically took over that process of breaking down the proteins. As I said, and all green proteins as well. And I was largely a vegetarian. And the consequence was miraculous. I mean, I'm, as I said, in my 60s, and I'm on nothing. I take no supplements. The only thing I rub onto my body is liquid magnesium. And please, everybody, all of you who are listening right now, get magnesium into your body right now in quantities on a daily basis. I'll talk more about that in another live stream later on. Let me just turn that phone off, Claire, because it was our friend from the Gold Coast. So let me just turn that off. There we go. Nexium over a long period of time, if you do your research, sure, will cause damage to your liver. Now, what's this from? Lack of sleep. Yeah, I mean, lack of sleep, basically, I couldn't sleep, and nightmares and things like that. That's all gut related. If your gut isn't able to actually break down the food properly, you go to bed at night, and what happens is that the gut spends all its time trying to break the food down. So your heart rate increases dramatically. Your adrenals don't get an opportunity to actually relax. Literally, your nervous system doesn't get a chance to relax. Your lymphatics don't get an opportunity to drain. So you'll find that something like the green papaya after your main meal, and again, get as much of your bulk of your food back to midday as opposed to late in the afternoon. The whole breakfast, lunch and dinner thing came about as a result of the Industrial Revolution, and it's part and parcel of this whole thing about keeping workers in there and what have you, and you're ending one shift and you're starting another shift and things like that. So change all that. Claire and I have totally changed it all, and the consequence is we get really good sleeps now, especially in the last couple of weeks. So the other thing too is with the magnesium, I think is this CB?
Yeah.
CB?
Monday.
CB Monday. Rub liquid magnesium onto the soles of your feet. Okay? Laura, hi sweetie. Nice to see you. Rub liquid magnesium on the soles of your feet at night, and what happens is that you find that your magnesium is infused into your nervous system through the soles of your feet, and it helps to relax your nervous system. And you find that everything begins to actually function very, very quickly. You know, the interesting thing about information is that I was a journalist for 30 plus years. I can smell BS. I can smell fraudulent information, and there's a lot of fraudulent information out there. I'm not here to sell you anything except my story, and I'm just sharing this from my heart because none of you needs to actually suffer any more from any disease or debilitating disease. The idea is, if you start right now with saying, I will self-heal, I'm not sure what to do next, but I will ask the question, then please ask the question, what do I do next? You know, through my integrative nutrition studies, I do offer consults for half an hour or an hour, and then ongoing support. And that information is at my website. So please use that, okay? It's really, really important that you are given the opportunity through good quality information to clear the decks of all the bullshit and actually take responsibility for yourself. The answer to healing is not outside of yourself, it is here. It begins in your heart through trust. It begins in your heart through faith and belief that you have the ability to actually do things to reprogram your body and move forward in the most progressive and successful way that I have experienced. Now, let's go to another question. Yvonne's asking a question, what's the best way to detox? I don't advocate detoxing, just as I don't advocate fasting. And you might go, wow, what's it all about? Do you know what? There's so much space energy flowing into the planet right now. There's so much new energy pouring into the planet, which is coming into the human body. We have to be entirely gentle on ourselves. We have to be very gentle. So anything like fasting or detoxing actually puts the nervous system into a state of trauma. So the idea is to use the functional incapacity, heal your gut function. And if it's by green papaya, fine. If it's by something else that works for you, it might be a ginger combination, or it might be something else, but you need something that has the ability to break down protein and take stress off the gut. If it's that, good. But get into that daily rhythm. You know, fruit, you know, light, simple carbohydrates in the morning, the enzymes of which help to activate your colon. You release all of yesterday's waste, so that by midday the next day, you actually have none of yesterday's food waste in your body. I had a lady talk to me online just a few days ago, and she hadn't passed waste for a week. I don't know whether that was a business week for 5 business days or 7 days, but let's assume it was 7 days and she hadn't passed weight. That is chronically, you may as well just write your will, because the body is not released, and she's still eating, but not passing waste. So the body has this build-up, compact build-up of waste, which just putrefies, especially where there are animal proteins involved, putrefies the intestinal tract and spews this acidity through the entire body, causing massive amounts of inflammation. So therefore you're prone to everything under the sun. So you have to change that situation. You have to change that environment very, very quickly. So the other word here is ease and grace, Yvonne. Just do it very gently on a daily basis, using the rhythm of the day, rather than I'm going to do a detox for 48 hours or a week or something, or I'm going to fast. You know, I've had people with my health coaching say, I want to do a 7-day water fast to start off this thing. I said, why would you like to do that? Because. I said, okay, how about trying it a different way? Get into a rhythm, basically, which supports. And it's a very feminine rhythm, by the way, and it's based on almost the tidal action of the planet, where, you know, we know that extremes are caused by human influence affect the planet in the most dynamic way. And by the way, there is a macro-micro relationship between what's going on in the planetary world outside of our bodies and what's going on inside our bodies. So there's inflammation in the human body, there's inflammation in the planet. So the moment, that's the thing I noticed drastically, and Claire too, when we had the vegan deli, and we were doing things basically to support the health of the individual, the planetary space around us began to change. And that's massive. That is absolutely massive. Amy Jean, is eating bananas an efficient way to get magnesium? It's just one of the ways to get magnesium. Okay, there's magnesium in most green foods, but the problem is it's not inherent in our soils. It is being depleted, and the consequence is that our plants do not actually suck up the magnesium, and we do not ingest that magnesium, so therefore we don't take it into our body. And yet there's 1% in our bloodstream magnesium, but it's critical 1%. You go above it or you go below it, it actually upsets this critical balance. Magnesium contributes to 400-500 enzyme functions of the body and about 10,000 biomechanical functions. Someone was saying 800 enzyme functions the other day. I checked on it, but it's between 400 and 500. They don't know, but it's between 400 or 500. Air, water, and magnesium. Janine, lovely to have you aboard. Thank you for checking in. Magnesium, basically, as I said, rubbed onto the body in liquid form, and you can take a supplement if you want. I find that something like Blackmore's Bionag is a good one, half in the morning and half in the evening. But get that magnesium into your body, and you'll find that your system begins to change completely. Magnesium is also an integral part in helping the body to break down proteins. And if you've got a deficiency in magnesium, it will lead to this atrophy this paralysis, this gastroparalysis I spoke about before, where the gut is not functioning. All right? So get it into your system. But, you know, I had a couple of bananas today. You don't need to eat 10, 20, 30, 40 bananas a day. Just a couple of bananas a day is fine. Find balance, find equanimity. Low iron. From Melanie, how are you? Nice to meet you too. Hi Laney, how you going? Low iron is detectable by actually just looking at the underneath the eyelids here, and you can't see, but if you just look underneath the eyelids there, if it's nice and red, basically iron levels are pretty cool. But if it's creamy, and I have seen white underneath those eyelids, which is a complete lack of iron. But basically, if there's any deficiency in your body, it's because your gut's not working. It's because the food isn't being broken down properly. It's because the chyme, the liquid food, hasn't been created. It's because the small intestine can't absorb the vitamins and minerals. And thanks for sharing that, Janine. Really appreciate that. The small intestine can't actually find the iron because the food has not been broken down properly. Does that make sense? The consequences can be quite dire, but the most important thing is that there's iron in all green foods. And when the machinery is working, your gut is working, then you're actually going to be able to create that chyme, and the small intestine, as I said before, I'll just stand up for a second. So here's your gut, there's your small intestine. This is the machinery. This is where the maceration takes place and then dribbles into your small intestine, the liquid food. If this is lumpy, you've got a problem, so you want it liquidy. And then the gut, the small intestine can actually recognize basically all the integral ingredients of that chyme. Now the gut computer here, and I go back to to Russell's question around neurological thing. The gut actually is a computer, it's a brain, but it's the gut and the small intestine together which actually form this brain. It's a central computing device where you've got all the data, which is the food coming in. It has DNA, it is contains the vitamins, minerals, aminos, essential fatty acids, proteins, and it's all broken down, okay? So that's like putting data into the computer, and the consequence is that it is ready and right to drop into the small intestine, which then recognizes all the integral elements of that chyme and begins the distribution process all around the body. So iron basically is a result of essentially the gut not working. 10 minutes left, all right. Annette, yeah, thank you. Annette says that her gut has never felt so good, and no more tablets. So that's what it's about. And Again, just 1 flat teaspoon a day of that green papaya powder, and you save yourself a lot of bother. Put any money you might have spent on meds and visits to the doctor, put it into a fund and go travel somewhere nice. Put up a bucket list and do things that actually support your health, well-being and your happiness. All right, just to mention again that the coupon code for Scott Matthias Raw for $10 off, okay, a jar of green papaya is FB1, okay? And we've got good discount offers for those of you who are actually already using it, but you want to actually just get the benefit and maybe share the benefits of the green papaya with other people, then you can actually buy 3, get another one, buy 4 and get 2 and things like that. And that's not unusual at the moment because of what's going on. I want to say, dear people, trust me, but I know that that's such a shallow series, a couple of words, but trust me, my own healing experience was real. I have not made up any of this. If I could have avoided that near-death experience 10 years ago, I would have. But for some reason, the prime source, God, whoever it is that you will call this amazing thing that we live with, gave me an opportunity to next morning press something in Google and come up with the answers. And here I am sharing those answers with you. It's taken a while, but nevertheless, it's real and it's palpable. Bloating, and Teresa, thanks for your question. What's best for bloating? I don't eat dairy, wheat or meat. Lazy bowel, I don't have sugar. Your gut's not working. The machinery's not working. So get some green papaya into your simplest 1 teaspoon a day after a main meal. Continue with that food awareness. It's really important. The food awareness is critical. Every time you put something to your lips, you say, is this going to kill me or cure me? Seriously, is this going to kill me or cure me? That's how quick it is at the moment. There are human beings dropping like bloody flies at the moment, and they're people we love. Thanks for sharing, Sandy. Really appreciate that. The human beings that we love that are being affected unnecessarily by dis-ease right now, that can be avoided. So I want to give you the permission to be the emissaries here and take new knowledge out there. Try it yourself. Work with it yourself. We've just launched in the United States through Amazon.com, and just put Scott Matthias green papaya in Amazon.com, and you'll see the green papaya regular and the green papaya combination with pineapple and turmeric come up. And we're building trust with that big market. We're taking ourselves into probably one of the most difficult arenas on the planet at the moment, and we want to help, okay? So the bloating will dissipate really, really quickly once your machinery starts. So even though you might be eating any of those foods, and I've come across a lot of really sick vegans in the last couple of years. They're not eating this food, but they're really sick because the machinery's not working. There's no gut biome. When the gut doesn't work, there's no gut biota. So with the support of a catalyst, you get this gut moving again, macerates the food, smears the food, and then the consequence is not only does that food get broken down into chyme, but you start to repopulate that gut cavity. So, Teresa, I hope that's answered your question. You can. The body will heal itself very quickly. Within a week to 2 weeks, within a month, your body starts to feel quite magical because there's no pain, okay?
Janine's just a baby.
Okay, Janine. Right, I want to ask, and I'll just see if Claire's... This is another thing, if Claire can just give me the response. Are you breastfeeding the baby? Chances are you are. Is the baby experiencing any colic or any digestive issues? So you've got an opportunity here to actually just slip that green papaya into your own food, because remember that your breasts are liquid food as a result of the function of your gut. So basically, if your gut is not functioning, you're going to get more proteins in your breast milk, which are then passed on to the baby, thus causing colic and thus causing protein breakdown and absorption issues with the child. And then they start doing all sorts of weird stuff to it. I mean, a 9-month-old child on Nexium and various other things is just crazy shit. I mean, it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever come across. We have the chance to heal our own bodies. The body will heal itself because it is programmed to do so. Read about this. We want to change the environment. So the consequence is get your gut working from a functional perspective, and you'll start to absorb iron okay. As I explained before, you create that chyme, flows into the small intestine, and then what you're doing is all those nutrients, all the liquid food in your small intestine, all the nutrients will get farmed out around the place, including your breasts, and they will actually be just repositories of the most nutrient-rich food possible that you can hand on to your baby. I hope that answers your question. But iron, again, is all about deficiency. If there's a deficiency in your body, it's because your body's not breaking it down, thus it's not absorbing it. And you don't need an external tablet or anything else to actually support that process. Caroline, how are you? We've only got a few minutes to go, but just letting you know that there's $10 off that green papaya if you use the coupon code FB1 on my website. And hands up those of you who are with me now who would like to do something else like this again. Just give us a thumbs up, and Claire can give me some feedback on that. I do private consultations, and we then go into, from an integrative nutritional point of view, we then go into looking at other key elements which are occurring in your external world and other key issues which are the result of your external world affecting your internal world. And we set up a program which enables you to get with your own internal program and heal the body very, very quickly.
You can send you a private message.
Okay. Yeah, I can send you a private message offline if you have any further questions, or you'd like to actually book a space for something more in depth. Yvonne's just said something there. So I have to get this working, Claire. I have to get my questions working. This has been really cool. So we're coming up to an hour, which is probably pretty cool. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank those of you who have taken time out of your evening here in Australia and your morning in the UK and the US to tap into something which I feel is quite profound. And as I said, I'm not here to sell anything except my story. Shortly, hopefully by the end of the year, I've got another book coming out, which is quite a comprehensive recipe and lifestyle thing based on plant nutrients. And I know that literally every day we've got new information coming up around the whole issue of eating eating plant food and following plant-based diet. You will not die if you stop eating old matrix food. And as I said, that's all old world food. But to reinvent something for yourself that's particularly personal and has a lot to do with where you're at with your thinking, both mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and where you're at financially, where you're at with your relationships. And I acknowledge that because we're all bio-individuals in that context. So it's really, really important for you to know that I understand that. One size does not fit all. But if you want to avoid illness, there's certain things you can do. There's certain catalysts that are available that will enable you to avoid illness. And the results can be real quick because the body is programmed to work perfectly. The body is programmed to survive. The body is programmed to receive these new space energies at the moment. All right?
Lots of people saying they'd love more. So
okay.
Put an event page up and
yep.
do it next week.
We'll put an event page up and we'll do another one next week. Monday night, 6 o'clock is probably a reasonable time. Is everybody happy with the time? Yeah. And this week, what I suggest, a little bit of homework. Just eat more fruit in the morning. Lighten up your lunches. And if those of you who've got issues, just grab some green papaya. And if you know anybody who's suffering from anything, literally, including diabetes, get the system working again. Then give us a hoy, and I'm more than happy to talk to you online. So we'll put an event page up for this time next week. Yeah.
And a link to the shop. A lot of people asking how to get the product. I've put links in, but there's a link to the shop.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a link to the online shop now that Claire's just put in, and just go there and take advantage of the code. Okay, there's $10 off a jar, FB1, and there's good discount offers which aren't part of the FB1, but you can still get an introduction to the green papaya, either the regular or the combo. By the way, some people are asking what's the difference between regular, that's straight green papaya powder. The combo is green papaya, pineapple. The bromelain from the core of the pineapple is full of proteolytic enzyme and turmeric. And that's very, very powerful. And to be honest with you, we're actually selling more of that. We're selling more of that on Amazon in the US in the last week than we have of the regular stuff. So that's about it. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a really wonderful evening. Love to you all. Big hugs to those friends and family who are part of both Claire and my world. And have a really safe and happy, healthy week. And we'll catch you this time next week. Ciao.